The views expressed are not necessarily those of KSCJ and Powell Broadcasting Company. This program is not intended to replace the advice of doctors or other clinical providers. Consult with your practitioner to ensure the proper course of action for you.
Welcome to When Things Aren't Going Well on AM 1360, FM 94.9 KSCJ. This program is dedicated to your mental health wellness and brought to you by Family Services, a United Way partner agency. Here's your host, Art Silva.
Good morning and welcome to When Things Aren't Going Well. This show is all about your mental wellness and how you can help yourself navigate the daily highway of life. Our show is brought to you by Family Services, a United Way partner agency serving the Siouxland community. Our topic today is juvenile court services and the program's interaction with Family Services. Joining me today from Family Services is Chief Operating Officer Brenda Geisinger and Zach Nelson, Juvenile Court Services Officer. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning, Art.
Okay, glad to have you here, Zach. Appreciate you joining us today. And why don't we just start the show off and have you tell a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm a juvenile court officer. Been doing it for over 20 years. Born and raised Sioux City. We've got 3 daughters and married to another juvenile court officer, Lisa Nelson. So we work all day and all night on juvenile justice. And yeah, so proud to be here, and thanks for having me.
Well, that's great. And boy, when you talk about the family, you talk about a commitment. We've learned that it can be a job, but a lot of times to do the job right, you got to have that mission-driven part of it. And with both you and your wife serving the community that way, I've been doing this job for about 10 years. And even with the advent of COVID, we've seen the adolescents in this community really struggle.
Yeah.
I know you guys have great programs that we're going to learn about that help in this area. So glad to have you here. And with that, why don't we talk about juvenile court services and exactly what you do in the community?
Yeah, you bet. So, it all starts when law enforcement makes a referral to us. So a kid gets in trouble, breaks the law, we get those complaints. Every complaint that we get, a juvenile court officer does an intake. Those intakes really are all about assessing a child. And so, our goal at the end of the day is to identify, if kids are low, moderate, or high-risk kids, and really put all of our energy and effort into those more higher-risk kids. We found that those low-risk kids, if you start putting a lot of time and energy with them or mixing them with those moderate or high-risk kids, you're going to end up with, more moderate or high-risk kids. So we really try to keep those pools separated.
So you'd say your referrals come, would you say they primarily come from the police department?
Yes, here in Woodbury County, we're getting them from the Sioux City Police Department, Iowa State Patrol, or the Woodbury County Sheriff's Department.
Well, it's kids as they go along this journey. That some are going to, for various reasons, err, but it's not the end of the world, and they got a whole life in front of them. And you said that you targeted the higher risk children. Can you describe those types of children to us?
Yeah, in general, we looked at different risk factors, and when we take a kid that's a high risk, this is somebody that's committed multiple crimes. They may have substance abuse issues. They may have mental health issues. They might have antisocial attitudes or really poor skill development. And so when you get a kid that has those types of things going on, then we really start to try to take a targeted approach to how to help them get through the court system and get through our process without reoffending. And so we make unique case plans for every kid we work with, and we really try to target the highest dynamic risk factors that they have that are really related to the offense. So if you think about it, a kid breaks the law and he's with a group of other kids. Peers might be one factor, for example, that contributed to that offense. So peer work would be something we might target. So that would be kind of an example. Just like if the kid was under the influence of drugs or alcohol at the time of the crime, then that would probably be one of our targeting areas.
I know that one of the issues that comes up with a boys and girls home and the public's understanding of what we do Our children are not the conduct disorder children. And as I listen to your programs, I'm sure as you go through the different layers of it, you find out that some have to take a different route for corrective action. Looking at the mental wellness side of it, and you mentioned earlier that you do an assessment when they come in. Could you tell us a little bit more about that, how you help to identify those children that might have a mental wellness issue?
Yeah, so the assessment we do is called the Iowa Delinquency Assessment, or in the business they call it the IDA. All right, and so what that does is it really looks at a lot of different domains, and mental health is one of those domains. So when we're doing that intake, we're trying to figure out, has that child ever been on medications before? How many therapists have they gone to? What does the school record say? Are they on an IEP? And so we get collateral records from all the providers that have ever worked with that child, so that when we do that assessment, it's really more of a valid assessment. But we are finding a lot more mental health kids that are coming into the juvenile justice system. And so when that happens, then we have to really try to figure out, are we in the right system here for this child? And oftentimes, we'll partner with family services and look at trying to get those mental health needs met, if we can.
I'm Silva, and joining me today on When Things Aren't Going Well is Zach Nelson from the Juvenile Court Services and Brenda Geisinger. And we're talking about juvenile court services and their interaction with family services. We've had a good working relationship, and I think what I'm hearing here, Zach, is that this is like a subset of an overall law enforcement mental health issue, where we're starting to look at how we approach mental health issues a little differently, and this is down at the adolescent level. And I think we have to start everything with every kid can be saved. Well, let's start that with that being the objective, and some roads may be a little more difficult than others, but every kid can be saved. So you want to take us along that journey, maybe with a case or an example?
Yeah, I really would like to, because one of the things that the state of Iowa has done in the last 15 years is they've started to train us in a model called EPICS, which stands for Effective Practice in Community Supervision. So this model basically means if I'm going to be supervising a kid, I'm going to follow a certain standard. And that standard begins with meeting with them on a regular basis. And the beginning of every meeting is really just checking in with that child. And so when I say checking in, is your day going okay? Anybody bothering you? Any changes in your family dynamics? And oftentimes when you just check in with the child, you're going to find out they are in crisis. And so that right there means we got to act. This is a big issue. Sometimes they might have a problem and it comes out, but it's not necessarily a crisis. And that really helps as you're going to continue to meet with them that day, that you're probably going to be doing some problem solving with that kid. The next phase of this EPICS model is really kind of reviewing goals that you've established with that child, reviewing services that you've put in place. So, for example, if they're going to family services for counseling, what are they working on? And that will help reinforce the work that they are working on with a therapist at family services. So it really helps make sure that they're being accountable to those service providers as well. Sometimes you'll find that there'll be barriers that will be preventing them to following the services that we want them to be involved in. But the most important part of this EPICS model that I like, Art, is the intervention piece. That's the third part. And so that's where you're actually sitting down with that child and teaching them problem-solving methods. You're teaching them skill development. My favorite is the cognitive restructuring. If you read any juvenile justice literature, they're going to say that's like the best way to help somebody not reoffend, right? Is cognitive restructuring. And the University of Cincinnati, who basically developed this model, spent a lot of time going across the state of Iowa and training every juvenile court officer on how to do cognitive restructuring. And so for me, that's where I find a lot of meaning in the work. And usually if I've got a kid that's not doing real well, we turn everything into a teaching moment. And so that cognitive restructuring, you change their thoughts, you're going to change the way they feel, and they're going to behave different. And so it's going to lead to better outcomes for them.
Well, this has certainly been interesting. And We're coming up on our break right now, so I think everybody go off and have your morning chill. And we'll be right back here when things aren't going well and continue our discussion with Zach Nelson on Children's Juvenile Services. So talk with you soon.
Let's face it, it happens to all of us. However, the pandemic has compounded all of our lives and activities. Even the simplest tasks seem harder. Hi, I'm Brenda Geisinger, the Chief Operating Officer at the Boys and Girls Home and Family Services. Family Services is a United Way partner agency serving children and families of our community, and we're here to help. If you'd like to learn more about Family Services, please contact us via email, website, Facebook, or phone Mary Pickens. At Family Services, we change lives.
Welcome back to When Things Aren't Going Well on KSCJ. Here's Art Silva.
Welcome back to When Things Aren't Going Well. With me today is Zach Nelson from Juvenile Court Services and Brenda Geisinger, our CEO at Family Services. And what we're talking about today, the first half of our show, was the Juvenile Court Services and what they do. Now let's talk about how they do it, and specifically after we target the young people in need, what are some of the areas that recommend children, or some of the services that support the recommendations from Juvenile Court Services? And with that, Brenda, I'm going to ask you to talk about a program that we were involved in. It moves around, and that was the AWARE program. And this put counselors into schools, and that has been a great source of referral in gathering assessment information on an individual and or bringing to the attention the need for an individual's help with some mental health wellness issues. You want to expound on that?
Sure. Our schools within the Sioux City area were awarded a federal grant, which provided the opportunity for local providers to give therapists to the public schools. And we are part of that program. And it really was an asset for the kids and for the parents because the child could receive therapy while during the school day. The parent didn't have to miss work to transport them. The child didn't have to miss as much school, and they were able to receive the therapy on site. It was a wonderful process.
Zach, how would you determine success in that program?
Well, I think anytime you work with kids that are, breaking the law, the number one gold standard to determine successes are they going to recidivate. And so, if a kid doesn't continue to get arrested, then that's the best way to determine a positive outcome. But I think there's other ways to determine outcomes like that as well. And if you're building a relationship with somebody, you're building trust with the system for their families, maybe breaking a generation of antisocial views and thoughts on law enforcement or the system. Those are also ways to consider a positive outcome.
You look at that and all the factors that affect a child growing up, the environment that they're in, sometimes maybe the opportunities that were denied, school issues that come into play, all while the child is developing. And we believe, and we've learned that adolescent brain, or that brain, continues to develop until they're 26, 27 years old. So we're not done yet, and it's okay for an adolescent child to misstep. It's not the end of the world. Our goal is to get them back on track and try to make them a contributing member of society and fix a lot of issues that have come to the forefront that have been there for a long time. What comes to mind, and we have this at Family Services, we have parents that really work with us for a common goal, and we have parents that could do a little more. What's your history with that?
Well, I would say kind of along the lines that you're talking about that, when somebody was messing up in the past, we were holding a hammer there to just kind of correct them, okay, and being the heavy. Now we're looking at, kids that are struggling and making mistakes and looking at those as teaching moments. And so, if you can help a kid learn and grow from their mistakes, then you're on the right track. And then when you talk about the family, the number one program that we have in Juvenile Court Services right now is called Functional Family Therapy, and that's really a program that's been measured to have positive outcomes. And so when we're working with kids and we're trying to keep them in the community and keep them in their homes, in their regular school. But there is family issues. We're making referrals to that program, and it's, like I said, been measured to have positive outcomes. So we've got several functional family therapists who are in this community that will work day and night to try to help these families out around their working schedules.
Brenda, let me ask you, do we see any of these children in our schools?
Absolutely. I mean, every child has a need, and it's up to other people to identify what we can do to help with that need. Sometimes it's a minimal service, and sometimes it's a lot of people getting involved, and where do we fit? So it's navigating that terrain together, and sometimes they need some involvement with juvenile court, and sometimes they don't, and it's just working together.
Zach, that first contact with the legal system that an adolescent has, can you describe that?
Yeah, I mean, usually what's happening is that, the kid and the family are stressed out, and they're coming down to see us because there was some kind of an offense that was committed. And so the beginning of that interaction is primarily education about the level of complaint, what kind of crime that is, how that would be handled as an adult, the differences between juvenile court and adult court, and really just kind of more informative. But then it really gets into kind of that assessment mode that I was talking about with our IDA, and that's really trying to take almost like a diagnostic approach to what's going on in their world that is creating this type of an offense from happening. And when we can get that part done, then we have kind of a clear path of where we need to go with that complaint to try to prevent it from reoccurring.
I think going forward, we've seen success stories with the children that we've had at Boys and Girls Home, and we've seen success stories with the children and adolescents that come through family services. A lot of the programs that we have in this community, such as what you offer, are programs that intervene. They take a problem and they make something good out of it. In certain cases, they have to take another route for treatment of the issue. But this is all tied to, in my opinion, what a great place to live, the quality of life, and you have to start measuring, I think, the quality of life in the community on the mental wellness. What type of services there are? Are they current services, like up-to-date services? Are we dealing with the state-of-the-art type of treatment? And I believe we are. I know it's a tough time right now with staffing issues and stuff like that, but we've had such a core of dedicated people in this area for a while that I think, and I've learned this on my own, it's a tremendous plus for this community. And we don't toot our horns enough, and we're doing a great job with a very difficult program. And I think one thing that I've noticed is the cooperation and interaction between agencies, the police. It's to try to help, try to move forward. We all kind of share that goal that this life is not lost, maybe a little astray, but people are looking for help. So you're part of that mix right there. And we don't deal with the fun, the sexy side of a lot of things. We get that underbelly. But there's so much joy and fulfillment when we're able to hold on to a family, hold on to a child, and get through that rough period in their lives. So I'm sure you have some good success stories. And Brenda, I know you have some great success stories. But the topic today just absolutely caught. I learned so much because there's so much going on good behind the scenes and a lot of good people doing it. So with that, Zach, I want to thank you for sharing that expertise. I learned a lot. I hope our listening audience learned a lot. And they know that if they need help, they can get a hold of juvenile court services and talk about what you do and if it's something that could help them in their family.
Yes, absolutely. My pleasure to be here, and thanks for what you guys are doing.
Okay, thank you. Brenda, thank you very much.
Yep.
And we're coming up on towards the end of our show, and every week we try to end our show with a little joke. It's a little humor is medicine for the soul. So have you all heard about Murphy's Law? Yes, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. How about Cole's Law? No, it's julienne cabbage and creamy dressing. Brenda, Zach, thanks an awful lot. I want to thank our listening audience. We're always looking to add to our family. So if you're looking for a career change or you want to start a new career, please give Barb Nielsen, our HR manager, a call at 293-4700. It's a great place to work. Want to give a shout out to Scott and Carissa Tucker celebrating their anniversary, and also a shout out to Riversons, now performing at Riverside Park today and tomorrow. Check out the Birds of Prey. There's something for everybody at their family. The weather is nice, so get out and have some great fun supporting this family-oriented event. Gates open at 10 a.m. today. When things aren't going well, we'll be back next Saturday morning at 7 a.m. right here on 1360 a.m., 94.9 FM, KSCJ. Your homework this week is to go out and have a good laugh. May the sun shine on you. Peace.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Happy trails to you.